Hi there. My name's Paul Sutton, and I'm here from C&T. I'm going to talk a little bit about our practice generally, but also going to give you one particular example, a case study of a particular project to give you. I think it's particularly resonant at the moment, but it'll also give you an insight into the way we work. Most classrooms, whether they be drama classrooms or primary school classrooms, have kind of got a box in the corner of the room. And in that corner of the room, there's things like a cape or a kind of walking stick or a telephone that kind of teachers use for either kind of creative play or as props in drama lessons. For C&T, in our work with young people using drama, we think that kind of box of props are kind of a little outdated because these are the playthings that kids use today. This is their box of props in their daily lives. And in our practice, we're interested in exploring the potential between drama and theatre and participation and the way these technologies connect to the lives of young people. So our work is predominantly, but not exclusively, about children and young people. We focus on kind of three concerns: drama, learning and digital media. And over the last few years, we've brought those three aspects together to develop a particular paradigm of practice. It's hard to characterise it in 15 minutes here, but really we're about colliding things like performance, process drama, social media, serious games and video games, smartphones, pedagogy, different types of participation, machinima, animation, citizen journalism, and those kind of fiddly new QR codes that are appearing on things, on walls and posters all over the place. Our work is about communities, but it's about scale, impact and efficacy. And increasingly, we talk about this work as being networked theatre. So whilst our background is in theatre and drama, we don't look anything like a theatre company. We now operate as a network. Each one of those red dots represents a partner school that C&T works with across the country. And there'll be about another 10 or 12 of those joining us in September. And each one of those has their own resident C&T animateur working in the school. And they work in partnership with the school, creating creative learning projects across the curriculum, in the extended day, and with the local community as well. But for us, what's most exciting about this way of working is what we call network collaborations. The potential to use drama and digital media to allow all those young people in all those locations to collaborate and work together. We increasingly talk about globalization being at the centre of this kind of practice, taking big global themes and issues and allowing young people to explore them within their own local context and customising them and exploring them on their own terms, but sharing that learning across that network. But this practice doesn't just include schools and partners in the UK. We have an increasing network of partnerships internationally. So we work with Roundabout Theatre in New York and with New York City Authority as well, with Arena Stage in Washington, with schools and community groups in Queensland and Sydney, along with the University of Sydney. We also work with community projects in the Gambia, Kenya, Malawi, and also with theatres and community groups in Tokyo. And in the autumn, we'll be adding Beijing to that list as well. At the centre of this practice is a social media platform that we've developed called the C&T Network site. And whereas we're all familiar with things like Facebook that allow us to kind of network and share and collaborate with our friends, the only way you can meet people on the C&T Network site is through collaborating in projects. You meet and talk with other young people and with other teachers, but the architecture of the website drives young people to share and work together on particular dramatic activities and creative projects. So you can see a list here of some of those projects in terms of the way young people collaborate. But it doesn't just work on computers like this. It allows people to use things like mobile devices like iPads, and also with mobile phones, which allows us to work in a range of locations where the internet is not available through lines and wires in the ground, but over those kind of mobile telephony networks. So now it's great to have a network, and it's great to have those opportunities to partner with people, but you need to be doing things with those young people. You need creative projects for them to engage with. And we call this particular model of practice that we've developed, it sounds very grand, but it kind of makes sense to us in our sad little world. We call these things dramatic properties. Because in a sense for us, what we're interested in is building synergies between our projects as intellectual property and the processes within them as drama. This involved the whole organisation thinking very, very differently about what it meant as product, not in the conventional theatre sense. We had to kind of try and occupy a different kind of territory to understand where the strength in our creativity lay. So if you found yourself in C&T's office, you'd quite often find us using language to describe our business, like intellectual property, licensing, vertical integration, scalability. We try and think about our practice in those kinds of ways. But essentially, dramatic properties are authored, collaborative, participatory texts that stimulate young people and allow them to collaborate and work together. So I want to take you through just one of those examples. Living newspapers. Living newspapers aren't an invention of C&T. They were created back in the 1920s and 30s during the last great financial crisis the world faced as part of the Federal Theatre Project. And they created this thing called the Living Newspaper Unit. They brought together unemployed actors and unemployed journalists and got them to create plays about the big topical issues of the day. They were kind of theatrical documentaries. These were kind of bold, anti-naturalistic, polemical plays, very satirical, episodic, but essentially educative pieces of theatre. For their day, they used quite sophisticated technology, projections, PA systems, the new technology of their day. We kind of wanted to reinvent that form online for young people today. So for us, living newspapers mean young people researching, devising, and performing their own living newspapers on issues that matter to them. They share this work online across the whole of the C&T network we saw earlier. It's a localised experience. There's a website, in addition to the C&T network website, which you can find at livingnewspaper.net, and this drives this activity, operating both as an immersive participatory fictional context that drives these collaborations, but it's also a catalyst for developing good practice and sharing those materials across our network. So this is what the Living Newspaper website looks like. It's very simple. In fact, it's sort of loosely modelled on TweetDeck, that people are kind of users of Twitter via TweetDeck. Essentially, it divides into 3 columns. On the left-hand side are direct links to breaking news stories that young people can use as starting points for creating their theatrical documentaries. The middle column are embedded videos of work created by young people in response to those starting points for drama. But the more exciting part of the network, of the website, is the third column called Action Guides, where, facilitated by their animateur or their classroom teacher, young people are introduced to the website and introduced to this kind of secret organisation called the Living Newspaper, where they meet 3 characters called Tom, Kate and Guy. And kind of using classroom drama techniques, the young people are drawn into this fictional world of these 3 characters and invited to become part of this organisation called the Living Newspaper.
Okay, we're recording. Okay, so whoever's listening, we're the livingnewspaper.net. My name's Guy.
I'm Kate.
My name's Tom. And we believe that the people in this country, especially the young people, deserve more of a say in the decisions that get made.
Politicians, media people, head teachers, whoever.
We think we deserve, at the very least, our voices to be heard. So that's why we've created the livingnewspaper.net. Kate?
Yeah, for the last year we've been working on the Living Newspaper. This is a kind of documentary play which shows the audience something real which is happening in the world.
About whatever.
Yeah, but our aim was to kind of stir up a bit of trouble or at least get a reaction and kind of change things.
Which worked.
Yeah, and now we want other people to do living newspapers too.
So if this sounds interesting to you, there are going to be a few more videos telling you a bit more about the livingnewspaper.net and showing you how to make your own living newspaper.
And ready, but that's the kind of way young people make their work on YouTube as well. So it has a kind of authenticity, we hope. So back with the Living Newspaper website, young people start exploring this site, and then they come across a manifesto. Now, the original Living newspapers had kind of manifestos that embodied their editorial values. So this was one from the 1930s that Joan Littlewood created in Manchester. The theatre must face up to the problems of its time. It cannot ignore the poverty and human suffering which increases every day. For today's digital natives, a manifesto like that wouldn't be of any interest. So this is our Living Newspaper manifesto. working with their animateurs, young people have to play this backwards and forwards, decode it, pause it, work out what the meanings are, and decide whether they want to be part of this covert organisation. So they turn their documentary work into theatre. They interrogate their content with
England, you
and
may.
develop their own understandings and opinions. When they create content, they reflect these facts,
Spain,
and
you
their
may.
values. They make videos of them, as well as performing them live in their schools, and share them through
Now,
the
since,
website. To help them in this process, to understand how to make living newspapers, on the website there are 5 rules which we've designed to help them understand how to make a living newspaper. And they are: be funny, be direct, juxtapose, agitate, and let the facts speak for themselves. This is one of those rules.
Five rules. Rule 5. Let the facts speak for themselves. Facts are interesting. Here are some facts.
The adult earwig can float in water for up to 24 hours without dying.
93% of all greeting cards are bought by women.
In the Second World War, over 60 million people lost their lives. Over 20 million of these were Russian.
I don't make predictions. I never have and I never will. Tony Blair.
The average British adult male eats 1.5 loaves of bread each week.
People want facts, so find them and use them. You can illustrate them.
The average British adult male eats 1.5 loaves of bread each week.
Or just deliver them straight, but put them at the centre of what you do. So that's rule 5. Let the facts speak for themselves.
So there's the 5 rules. Be funny, be direct, agitate, juxtapose, and let the facts speak for themselves.
It's kind of like a politicised Blue Peter. So, the Living Newspaper website then becomes a place for young people to upload their work and share that across the network, wherever they might be, allowing them to exchange their points of views, experiences in their communities, their cultures and values, wherever they might be. Whether they be in Romford, over in East London, whether they be in the Gambia, whether they're in Brooklyn, in New York, or whether they're on a street corner in the Korogocho slum in Nairobi. And just finally, I thought you might like to see one example of a living newspaper. This is a short scene created by some young people in Tokyo, where passive smoking is a real issue because they are allowed to smoke wherever. So this is just a kind of 2-minute scene about some young people and their view about...
はあ、公園っていいな。気持ちいいもんな。静かだな。うん、静かでさ、空気もいいし、草とか木とかいっぱいあるしな。お前空気がきれいとか言ってるそばからあれだよ。はあ、さあ、マナー悪いよな、ああいう人。さあ、今歩きながらタバコ吸ってたっしょ。本当ありえないな。危ないしさ、そうそうそう。小さい子の目とかついちゃったりさ、まあそれよくあるね。まあ、あとさ、そう煙、ほら、来た、ほら、あいつ吹いて。あいつむせたぞ。自分の煙でむせたよ。俺らでさ、煙吸い込んでさ、吹きかけてやろうぜ。そうだ。すいません。あなたはちょっとマナー悪いんじゃないですか。歩きながらタバコ吸って。なんだ君たちは。だからマナーをちゃんと守りましょうって言ってるんですよ。しかも今捨てましたよね。ほら、これ絶対良くないですよ。